The next worksheet we're going to use is self-help strategies for panic disorder. So we're going to start off on step 2, understanding panic attacks and panic disorder. Ensure that you know the facts about panic attacks. Fact 1, panic attacks are the body's fight, flight, freeze response kicking in. This response gets our body ready to defend itself. For instance, our heart beats pump faster to our muscles and we have energy to run away or fight off danger. However, sometimes our body reacts when there is no real danger. So that's obviously panic attacks, when there's no real danger, but yet our body is having a physical response to anxious thoughts and that kind of stuff. Panic attacks are harmless, although they can feel very uncomfortable or scary. Because panic attacks are the body's alarm system, they are not designed to harm you. You might feel like you're dying or going crazy, but you are not. You would have the same feelings in your body if you were facing a real physical threat. So, panic attacks, you have to remember, are harmless, and you're having them because you're having anxious thoughts and that kind of stuff. Fact 3, panic attacks are brief, typically lasting 5 to 10 minutes at peak intensity, although they sometimes feel like they go on forever. Because panic attacks take up a lot of energy in the body, they quickly run out of gas. This is why they don't last very long. In fact, you might find yourself feeling exhausted afterwards. Fact 4, panic attacks are private experiences. Others, except those very close to you, usually cannot tell you're having a panic attack. So this is very true. I've had panic attacks myself. I know you probably have as well. And the people around you don't actually know that you're having a panic attack because the anxious thoughts are racing through your mind and it's happening very quickly. So you're not able to express that you're having a panic attack at the time because you're so involved in it that you can't actually express that. Sometimes what you may need to do is sit down, do something else. A lot of the times I have to sit down. So just keep that in mind. Panic disorder results from misinterpreting bodily sensations associated with the fight, flight, freeze response as dangerous. For example, believing that an increase in your heart rate means that you're having a heart attack. As a result, you live in fear of additional attacks and you start to avoid things that may trigger panic attacks. You might be going through life on the lookout for the next attack and constantly scanning your body for panic-like sensations. Here's one way to understand how this apprehension about having panic attacks keeps people on guard. So this example is going to go through what that's like. 2 hikers are going for a hike in the woods. One hiker runs into the park ranger, who warns her that a bear has been spotted in the woods. The other hiker does not receive the warning and continues on his way, enjoying an afternoon hike. If he hears a rustling in the woods, he assumes that it is a squirrel or the wind. The hiker who was told about the bear, however, is very cautious and constantly on the lookout for the bear. She becomes sensitive to anything that suggests the bear is near and might decide to avoid the woods altogether and not return to the park. This is what happens when you have a panic attack. Because you have been alerted to it, you might find yourself always on the lookout for another panic attack. This can make you feel nervous, which might lead to another panic attack. You might even start to avoid the things that remind you of the attack. So this is true. So for instance, that other hiker may not even go out to the woods again because she's so afraid of a bear. And that's true in the sense that a lot of times we have one panic attack and we sometimes know and sometimes don't know where it came from. And when we do know, we try to avoid those situations again. And that's not helpful in the long run because we're avoiding situations that we could handle successfully if we had the opportunity again. Because once we understand the triggers that cause us to have a panic attack, then we can work on those triggers and become more successful in managing our panic attacks, managing our anxiety, and working towards a successful resolution to those issues. So in the case of this hiker, she may not ever go out to another wooded area. But if she was able to handle her panic successfully and not always assume there's a bear out there, she would be able to get some relaxation from her experiences being out in the woods and that kind of stuff. So sometimes the panic attacks cause us to avoid certain situations that are actually good for us, because if she was able to go out to the wooded areas, she would be able to relax more. So, building your toolbox. The best way to begin managing your panic attacks is to start building a toolbox of strategies that you can use to manage them. And I'm not going to go through this whole thing. But tool number 1, learning to relax. 2 relaxation strategies can be particularly helpful. Calm breathing, as we discussed, using breathing techniques. This is a strategy you can use to help reduce some of the physical symptoms experienced during a panic attack. We tend to breathe faster when we are anxious, which can make us feel dizzy and lightheaded, which in turn can make us even more anxious. Calm breathing involves slow, regular breaths through your nose. However, it is important to realize the goal of calm breathing is not to stop a panic attack because it's dangerous, but to make it a little easier to ride out the feelings. So, what you want to do is breathe slowly through your nose and realize that you're not actually stopping the panic attack. You're just slowing down the process. So, tool number 2, realistic thinking. The next tool involves learning to identify scary thoughts that can trigger and fuel physical feelings of panic. First, ask yourself what you are afraid will happen during a panic attack. Examples include, I will faint, it will go on forever, I'll embarrass myself, I'll have a panic attack, or I'll die. To become more aware of your specific fears, try to identify your thoughts and write them down, whether you feel anxious or feel an urge to avoid or escape the situation. So this goes back to understanding our triggers. Like I've discussed in previous videos, write down those list of triggers for your anxious and panic attack thoughts and work on successfully managing them, because that's what's going to help you the most. So once you understand the triggers, you're able to work on them. Some of the things that panic attacks fall into the groups is overestimating. This happens when we believe that something is highly unlikely is about to happen. For example, when we believe we will faint or die as a result of a panic attack. So that's one group, and this is very common. So you have to work on the strategies to calm yourself down. Catastrophizing. This is when we think about the worst possible solution, the worst possible outcome. So when you're catastrophizing, what would be the best way to not catastrophize? Use the slow breathing, work on the triggers. That's the most important thing, is to write down your triggers and work on them. So I'm going to keep reiterating that. But I'm not going to go through this whole exercise, but you have the resources in your resource column down below. And I would really encourage you to go through this worksheet.